Hi there, Max, Stella, and Leo. Today's book is called Rosie Revere, Engineer. It's the very last one I have. So after you finish reading this one, why don't you get your parents to send me a text, or you can send me a text if anybody knows how to do that, with the names of books that you have that you would like to hear me read, and then I can get them and you can read along. Okay, so this is the story of Rosie Revere, who dreamed of becoming a great engineer. In Lila Greer's classroom at Blue River Creek, young Rosie sat shyly, not daring to speak. So here are all of her classmates speaking. But can you find Rosie, who's just sitting there being quiet? Let's see where she is. There she is. But when no one saw her, she peeked in the trash for treasures to add to her engineer's stash. And late at night, Rosie rolled up her sleeves and built in her hideaway under the eaves. So there she is, fishing through the garbage. Alone in her attic, the moon high above, dear Rosie made gadgets and gizmos she loved. And when she grew sleepy, she hid her machines far under the bed where they'd never be seen. When Rosie was young, she had not been so shy. She worked with her hair swooping over one eye and made fine inventions for uncles and aunts. A hot dog dispenser and helium pants. Look at those funny helium pants. The uncle she loved most was zookeeper Fred. She made him a hat to keep snakes off his head, from parts of a fan and some cheddar cheese spray, which everyone knows keeps the pythons away. And when it was finished, young Rosie was proud, but Fred slapped his knee and he chuckled out loud. He laughed till he wheezed and his eyes filled with tears, all to the horror of Rosie Revere, who stood there embarrassed, perplexed, and dismayed. She looked at the cheese hat and then looked away. "I love it," Fred hooted. "Oh, truly I do." But Rosie Revere knew that could not be true. She stuck the cheese hat on the back of her shelf and after that day kept her dreams to herself. So there's her uncle, the zookeeper. And there she is with the funny cheese hat. That's how it went until one autumn day, her oldest relation showed up for a stay. Her great-great-aunt Rose was a true dynamo who worked building airplanes a long time ago. She told Rosie tales of the things she had done and goals she had checked off her list one by one. She gave a sad smile and looked to the sky. "The only thrill left on my list is to fly. But time never lingers as long as it seems. I'll chalk that one up to an old lady's dreams." And here's her Aunt Rose, her great-great-Aunt Rose. And you could get your parents to tell you the story of Rosie the Riveter that Aunt Rose is based on in this story. That night, as Rosie lay wide-eyed in bed, a daring idea crept into her head. Could she build a gizmo to help her aunt fly? She looked at the cheese hat and said, "No, not I." But questions are tricky, and some hold on tight. And this one kept Rosie awake through the night. So when dawn approached and red streaks lit the sky, young Rosie knew just how to make her aunt fly. And there she is, wondering if she can make a machine for her aunt to fly. She worked and she worked till the day was half gone, then hauled her cheese copter out onto the lawn to give her invention a test just to see. the ridiculous flop it might turn out to be, because I guess making a helicopter out of cheese might be pretty tricky. Right, Abuelito?
Sí.
Strapped into the cockpit, she flipped on the switch. The Helio cheese copter sputtered and twitched. It floated a moment and whirled round and round, then froze for a heartbeat and crashed to the ground. There she is in the cheese copter. Then Rosie heard laughter and turned round to see the old woman laughing and slapping her knee. She laughed till she wheezed, and her eyes filled with tears, all to the horror of Rosie Revere, who thought, "Oh no, never, not ever again will I try to build something to sputter or spin, or build with a lever, a switch, or a gear, and never will I be a great engineer." And there's her aunt laughing like crazy, and there's the failed helicopter on the ground, and there's Rosie looking pretty sad. She turned round to leave, but then Great-Great-Aunt Rose grabbed hold of young Rosie and pulled her in close, and hugged her and kissed her and started to cry. "You did it! Hooray! It's the perfect first try. This great flop is over. It's time for the next." Young Rosie was baffled, embarrassed, perplexed. "I failed," said dear Rosie. "It's just made of trash. Didn't you see it? The cheese copter crashed." "Yes," said her great aunt, "it crashed. That is true. But first it did just what it needed to do. Before it crashed, Rosie, before that, it flew." Your brilliant first flop was a raging success. Come on, let's get busy and go on to the next. She handed a notebook to Rosie Revere, who smiled at her aunt as it all became clear. Life might have its failures, but this was not it. The only true failure can come if you quit. And so here's Rosie with her notebook, but you know what these are? These are pictures of different things and times when women were the pioneers in the field of aviation. Aviation is a fancy word that means flying. So if you get this book, you can read all about these women who were the first at a lot of what they did in aviation. They worked till the sun sneaked away to its bed. Aunt Rose tied her headscarf around Rosie's head and sent her to sleep with a smile ear to ear, to dream the bold dreams of a great engineer. At Blue River Creek, all the kids in grade 2 build gizmos and gadgets and doohickeys too. With each perfect failure, they all stand and cheer, but none quite as proudly as Rosie Revere. So there all of her classmates are, making gadgets and gizmos and doohickeys. And there she is in her aunt's headscarf, cheering on those people who fail, but who get up and try again. So that's the end of the story, but there's a saying that you could learn that's sort of the moral of this story, and it goes like this: if at first you don't succeed, try again. So with that, I leave you for today. I hope you are well and behaving nicely and taking a bath and going to sleep. Bye.